Thank you for watching this episode. I want to talk to you for a little bit about something that's absolutely essential if you're going to work magic or the law of attraction. And that is that you reclaim power and control over your own life. Now, everybody knows that life, in terms of the circumstances that happen to us, is a lot of it's beyond our control. Unfortunate things happen to everyone in life, but how you experience what happens out there to a very large degree, to a great degree, is determined by how you think and feel about those experiences. Your thoughts and feelings actually determine the quality of your experience. The problem is that for a lot of us, we don't realize that we have control or that we can change the way that we think and the way that we feel about something. And so the first part of magic is not about changing your circumstances or attracting things into your life, synchronicities that are going to bring good things. That's part of it, don't get me wrong. But before we can begin to do any of that, we have to change ourselves. We have to change from the inside out. You could say that magic really is an inside job. So, what goes on in our thinking and feeling processes? So I'm going to give you a little bit about how the brain and the body work together so that hopefully you can understand this a little bit better. When you have a thought, and a thought can be anything, it doesn't have to be words. A lot of people think that thoughts are just words. They think it's their self-talk, the stuff that goes on inside the mind that they're hearing. But it can also be pictures. We think in two primary ways. We think in pictures and we think in words. Now, our pictures can become whole movies. And you can think about those pictures and those words as internal representations about life that's happening outside of us. And so when you have a thought, if you're playing a movie in your mind, or you're having a picture, or you're thinking and saying things to yourself, then what that does is that releases a neurotransmitter or a chemical in the brain. And then those neurotransmitters determine chemicals called neuropeptides that are released into the blood that then interact with various glands within the body that also release chemicals, and that determines how we feel. So let's take fear, for example. Right before I did this episode, my 9-year-old son jump scared me. He's at a phase of life that he just likes to jump scare me. And he really got me this time. He doesn't always get me, but he really got me. I was just relaxing outside, and he came and jump scared me. And all of a sudden, my body reacted. My heart was beating. My stomach, I was feeling fear. My breathing increased. And so what happened? I had an experience outside of myself that startled me. And immediately, before I could think or do anything, I had mental thoughts that there was danger, that there was a threat out there. And so when that happened, the neurotransmitters were released in my brain that caused neuropeptides to go to the glands in my body that release the fight or flight or the stress response. And so cortisol gets released into my blood. Adrenaline, very much so, gets released. And when those chemicals get released, the body responds. The heart starts beating. And I felt the experience of fear. Now, if there had been an actual threat, then I would have responded differently. But once I realized it was just my son, I began to relax and my thinking began to change. What happened? I had another thought. Oh, it's just my son. And because I love my son, different neurotransmitters were being released in the brain, which was releasing different neuropeptides, and my body began to calm down and relax because literally I had a totally different chemistry going on inside my body. Now, here's what happens to us. When we have stressful events, let's just take that, an unfortunate event happens to us, and we begin to build this internal representation about what happened to us. And the moment that we do that, then these chemicals get released in our body and we begin to have feeling. Now, because we're self-reflective, we begin to reflect back on how we think. We begin to reflect back on how we feel, which means we're thinking about our thinking and we're thinking about our feeling and we're feeling about our thinking. You see how that works? I have a thought that causes me to feel. Then I can reflect on how I'm feeling and that can cause me to have more thoughts. And then those thoughts can cause me to have more feelings and I can get stuck in a loop. You know, biologically, when you have a release and a surge of adrenaline, it only stays in your system for about 90 seconds. That's all it stays in for. And if you can relax, it only takes a couple of minutes for that whole thing to wear off. Well, that's what happens when you get jump scared, when you think there's a threat out there and you find that it's not a threat. But when we live in a stressful state of being, it's because we perceive things outside of ourselves as being threats to us. And because we perceive those things as being threats to us, we release these chemical cocktails in our body that causes us to feel stress, causes us to feel anxiety, causes us to feel fear. Now, that would go away in 90 seconds, but the problem is that we keep thinking about the stressful event. Say you had a bad day at work and you were afraid you were going to lose your job. Maybe when you got the news that you made a mistake or something and you had fear that you were going to lose your job, if you would stop thinking about it, those feelings would go away. But instead, we start saying, oh, I feel stressful. Oh, something bad's going to happen. And because of the way we're feeling, we immediately begin to see how I did it. I begin to think, oh, something bad is going to happen. I'm going to lose my job. And I go home and I'm talking to my family. I'm saying, I'm so stressed because of what happened at work today. And I keep running the movie over and over and over again. And every time I do that, I'm releasing more and more stress chemicals. And then I'm sitting there saying, oh, I feel stressed. Oh, this is terrible. And that's how my belief system gets built and gets hardwired into my body. So the reality is you always experience, at least subjectively, what you believe. If you believe that a bad situation is going to happen and you keep replaying that in your mind in terms of worry, you're going to experience it biologically and at a feeling level as though it's actually happening to you. And so when you're doing that, then you're feeling stressed, then you're thinking about that, and you just get stuck in that state. And so to change the quality of your experience, you have to change the quality of what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And this is why meditation is so important in any spiritual practice or anything. If you're going to be able to work magic, if you're going to be able to work the law of attraction, you have to understand that change has to begin within, that you have to begin to be able to shift your state of consciousness from one to the next, from a state of stress and worry and anxiety to a state of peace and relaxation. And so depending on what method of meditation that you use, to a large degree, determines what's going on in your state of consciousness. And so when you are meditating, you're practicing putting yourself into calmer, more peaceful, more relaxed states of being. You're actually working magic because you're transforming the quality of your experience by transforming how you are thinking and feeling about that event. Now, this does something very, very powerful for us and very, very essential for us. This gives us more control over our experience. Even before we begin to use our thoughts and feelings to change and draw synchronicities and attract things into our lives, we are beginning to change the quality of our experience by changing our state of being. See, it's all about states of being. And that's something that you can control. And what's really powerful is that puts you at the place of cause. You'll never be able to attract things into your life. You'll never be able to change it for the better. You'll never be able to create happiness and elegant outcomes for yourself as long as you're living at the place of effect. And most people unconsciously put themselves at the place of effect. They are the byproduct of whatever events or circumstances are happening in their lives. And that means they've put the location of control and power outside of themselves. Something else is causing them to feel a certain way. Something else is causing them to experience certain things. And you can't work magic from the place of effect. In fact, it's essential to the law of attraction, to faith, and to magic that you put yourself at cause. And this can be one of the problems with certain forms of religion or spirituality if we think that we're constantly the effect of what God decides for our lives. Now, prayer can put you at the place of cause if you believe that your prayers are being answered and you believe that they're making a difference. If you believe that the fact that you pray actually changes something, then you're automatically already starting to put yourself at cause. But you can take it even further and begin to realize that the way I believe, if I can believe something, if I can believe for a better circumstance, if I can believe, like Jesus said in Mark 11:24, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have received them and you'll have them. When I begin to believe that I've already received the answer, I begin to access the state of mind, the state of body, the state of thought and feeling as though that thing has already happened. My consciousness has changed, and I'm no longer operating from the place of lack. I'm operating from the sense that I already have that thing. And when I operate from the sense that I already have that thing, I'm actually triggering in the laws of the universe the cause to allow that thing to be invited into my experience. So I want you to take some time and just think about how much of your life do you believe that you are the cause of, and how much of your life do you believe that you are the effect of? In other words, how much power do you have? Until you can claim back your power and be comfortable in it and believe that you have the power to change your life, you have the power to cause things to happen, then you're not going to be able to work the law of attraction or magic. But it's really simple. If you'll just begin to renew your mind and begin to think differently and begin to think about power differently and begin to think that you actually have, excuse me, power and control over things and influence over things that are coming into your life. Now, don't get the idea that you become this all-powerful genie that can just dictate everything that happens in every circumstance, because that is a recipe for disaster. Because you're just one aspect of energy and consciousness in this conscious, energetic universe and plane of reality that we find ourselves in. So a lot of people, when they begin to hear about the law of attraction or faith or magic, and they begin to think, maybe I'm manifesting. If I got a disease, maybe I manifested that. If I had a car accident, maybe I manifested that. If I'd have been believing and thinking differently, maybe that wouldn't have happened. That might be true in that circumstance, but you can't control everything. There's other energies out there. There's other entities. There's other people. There's other things going on, and you are just one component. But you can control your component. And by controlling your component, your aspect of energy, your aspect of consciousness in this conscious, energetic world and plane of existence that we find ourselves in, then you are releasing a powerful influence over your life. So that even when unfortunate circumstances do happen to you, you can have a sense that you can influence the outcome and that you're going to be okay. And that sense is called resilience. So you can become a magical person even in the midst of the most unfortunate events that happen in your life. When you begin to say yes to everything in your life, you let go of resistance to those things, and you realize, even though I'm in a hard place, even though this bad thing happened to me, I have the power within myself to transform this situation so that it doesn't have to end me and I don't have to stay stuck. And so just beginning to break those states of consciousness. And this is why in meditation, breath, in good meditations, breath is so important. If you haven't checked it out, I would suggest that you go look at Heart Math Institute. You can find them on the internet at heartmath.com. They have a lot of scientific evidence, and they have a very simple meditation technique that can help you transform the way that you think or feel. It's really very basic. First thing you do is you slow down your breathing, and they suggest that you slow it down to 5 seconds inhale and 5 seconds exhale. When there is an equal amount of time in both the inhale and the exhale, you automatically begin to access a more relaxed and better state of being that Heart Math calls heart coherence. So you can sit there and you can close your eyes, you can put your hand on your heart and think about your heart. And you can slow down your breathing. Maybe think 5-5-5. Breathe in for 5 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And then breathe out for the same 5 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And do that 5 times. And then you've got your hand on your heart. So you begin to think about your heart, and you can imagine your breath as though it's coming into your heart and bathing it with relaxation and peace. And then exhaling so that you're breathing in and out through your heart. That's the first part of it. When you begin to feel the state of consciousness change, because it will, your state of being will change, you'll become more relaxed. It can't not happen. Then they suggest that you think about something good in your life, something that you enjoy, something that you can have gratitude towards or have compassion towards. Now, I suggest that you don't pick something that has any kind of emotional loading to it. So don't pick a person necessarily, because relationships can be difficult and sticky. But maybe think about something like your favorite food, or think about your favorite song, or even your favorite color, anything that gives you this subtle feeling of appreciation and well-being. And as you focus on that, notice how you're feeling that, where you're feeling that in your body, and then work on holding that feeling for as long as possible. If that feeling begins to go away because your mind begins to wander and you begin to be playing some of those horror movies that are in your life, go back and control your breathing, think about your heart, and think about what makes you happy. And practice holding that state of being as long as you can. Because if you and I are going to be able to do the law of attraction and do magic and these things, we have to be able to hold states of well-being and focus them even when things around us aren't lining up or happening exactly the way that we want them to happen. But the most beautiful thing that happens is it does begin to put you at the place of cause. See, when you and I begin to work magic, we're at the place of cause. We are causing and changing our experience by taking authority and control over our thoughts and feelings. And instead of just reacting like I did when I was jump scared, we set aside times in our life, throughout our daily life, time in the morning, time in the evening, times throughout the day, where we just practice states of well-being on purpose, thinking positive thoughts on purpose, feeling positive feelings on purpose, letting go of resistance. And as you practice that, just like anything else, you get better and better, and you begin to build a really good foundation for dealing with situations that are stressful, transforming situations and attracting situations so that more favorable events come into your life, and coping and dealing with those negative circumstances when they come to you. That's the power of magic. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful for you. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe by hitting the button down below, and please comment and let me know what you think about my video. Thanks, and I hope wherever you are that it's great.